Hey everybody, welcome to the Pixel Buzz Podcast for April 21st, 2013. I'm Andy Ryan, and these hot dogs are delicious. Joining me is the man formerly known as Legless Pooch, Dave DeWart. Dave, what have you been playing?
Formerly known as Legless Pooch? Do I have fake legs now? Do I have robot legs?
You call me Legless Pooch again, I will end you.
It's kind of cute. It's kind of a cool name.
Legless Pooch. Talking about The Losers, which is a movie none of you probably have seen.
You can find a 3-pack of it for like $11 at Best Buy this week.
And it is a good movie.
Yeah.
It is
like
fun, funny.
It was, The Losers, Shoot 'em Up, and...
Which is rare. Shoot 'em Up is rare.
And I can't remember what the other... Rock and Rolla.
Oh, Rock and Rolla
was the third movie in that set, so... I don't know, I've only seen The Losers so far, but hey, for $11, I guess it's not bad for on Blu-ray.
The Losers is probably one of my favorite movies. Anyway, so what have you been playing outside of your Blu-ray player?
So, the Soul Sacrifice demo came out this week. I think it came out this week.
Yes.
Okay.
It came out late because the PlayStation Network was under maintenance.
They were doing maintenance on it until like Wednesday afternoon or something. But still, it came out. I'm not as excited about that game as I once was. I thought it was going to be more Dark Souls and less Monster Hunter, and I think it's more the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know why you would get that opinion. Everything I've seen of it, I haven't played it yet.
I didn't really read much about it. I just kind of went off of like the trailer that they showed. But
I don't have room on my memory card, so
it's not super huge yet, I don't think. But I have a 16 and you have an 8. So.
I put Grandia on my memory card.
Okay,
and I still have Disgaea, Grandia, and Smartass.
Yeah, so you're done.
Brain training.
Your card is gone. It's interesting so far. I mean, it is a demo, but I think it's more like this is the first chapter of the game.
Yeah, well, the save carries forward.
So yeah, this is the first however many chapters of the game so far, and it's interesting. Mm-hmm. The magic combat is kind of neat because you can have basically 2 sets, but you can like run out of one kind of item at any point. Like you exhaust the uses of this item, so you have to then figure out what you're going to do. Yeah, you have to juggle between them.
Which is a Monster Hunter thing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I might get into it more.
So I just want to point this out right now. All your criticisms are completely invalid.
Because it's a demo?
No. Because it's a Kenji Inafune joint.
Okay.
That man doesn't do wrong.
Okay.
There's a reason he guest stars in other people's games.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've like I said, I'll give it a little bit more. I'm not through the demo yet.
Yeah, I'll probably pick it up on the card, especially since my memory card is not full.
Yeah. When you get a new card, you will get one. Oh.
No. I'll get it when it comes out.
You'll buy the game when it comes out. I gotcha. You still have to install it.
What?
You still have to install it.
Yeah, a lot of the games that are on my cards, like the installs are very small, but every once in a while you run into one where the install is huge.
It's like here's 2 gigs you have to install no matter what.
Yes. So I believe Soul Sacrifice is not like that.
Okay. But it's interesting. The character creation is kind of cool, and the fact that you're basically playing through this guy's life through this book that talks to you. It looks very similar to the Necronomicon.
I've seen the new Evil Dead. Have you?
I was going to go see it yesterday, but we didn't leave the house till later. Blah, blah, blah. So, that's what I've been up to. I've also been playing another game, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Let's see. What have I been playing? Oh, I've beat Lunar 2 Eternal Blue. Beat in quotations because there's an epilogue, which I didn't know about.
So you have like an extra 2 or 3 hours of stuff to do?
Probably more than that.
5.
There's a bunch of dungeons. So to not be too spoilerish, the ending of the first Lunar, ends with the main character and the love interest being together forever.
Yes.
And Lunar 2, since it's 1,000 years in the future, it brings that back up again and everything. Lunar 2 does not end with that, and I was pissed.
Oh,
when it would ended, and I was like, wait, no, they don't end up together?
I am upset.
Screw you, Game Arts! Spike my controller into the ground.
Were you using your what is that Nerf controller you had still?
No. This was my standard, whatever was before the DualShock on the PlayStation 1. Those things are very resilient. Anyway.
Yeah, they're pretty rugged.
So then the credits roll and it says, save, and you can go to the epilogue. And I was like, well, I was like, I don't want to go to the epilogue because this sucks. Everyone had a happy ending but my character.
Aww.
And I go online and they're like, yeah, well, obviously you didn't play the epilogue. I was like, okay. So I go in.
The epilogue.
So I go in and I find out that the epilogue is literally like three years or months later, whatever. It's a sizable amount of time. Yeah. And you're literally like, you have to go through these other dungeons, get these other items to get the real ending. Okay. And it kind of sucks. Well, I didn't like it. Well, let me preface that with saying, after having beaten the final boss before I got to the ending. After I beat the final boss, I said, Lunar, the Silver Star, is my favorite game of all time.
I can see that. It's very good, very, very good RPG.
I always reiterate when people ask me, like, if you were stuck on a desert island, what would you bring with you? And I would bring Lunar and an inflatable raft, but mostly Lunar.
Okay.
And at the end of that final boss fight, before I saw the ending, I told my wife, I was like, I like this more than Lunar, the Silver Star.
And then you saw the ending.
And then I saw the ending. Now I'm pissed. So now I got to really see the ending to actually see how the epilogue ends to actually get my full. But at one point, Lunar 2 Eternal Blue was my favorite game in existence.
For a few hours.
For one brilliant shining moment until I woke up in the morning and picked up my save.
And then I started playing again, and then I was sad.
It plays a lot better than Lunar 1 did, because the bosses don't scale anymore, so you can power level
You can
a bit.
out-level them bosses and then just mash them to the ground. But so that's one of the things I liked about Lunar was you couldn't out-level the bosses. You couldn't make the game trivial by power leveling your character.
It's since Lunar doesn't have random battles, it still sidesteps that to a high degree.
Yeah, it does.
You can go out of a dungeon and then go back in, and all the bad guys will respawn.
All the monsters have respawned, yeah.
But since you can't just sit there on the world map
and then run in circles like you could in Final Fantasy VII.
So you're never so out power leveled of someone.
Yeah.
But I think the only times I died in that game were there's a fight against Galleon partway through the game. The first fight against Galleon. Galleon's the evil wizard from the first game.
Bad guy, gotcha.
He killed me the first time, and that was just because I didn't know the boss battle was coming up, so I didn't plan accordingly.
You didn't have all your characters, healed and whatnot.
And then the final boss was kind of the better part of an evening of figuring out each form and what the tactic is for that form.
Going through the different phases and figuring out strategies.
And it was really rewarding. And how the final boss battle plays out with the story and everything was, I thought, was excellent, beyond excellent.
Except for the fact that your character isn't happy.
Well, that's after the final boss battle.
Gotcha.
So, and it's Game Arts, and I really love Game Arts. I feel like they've always done excellent things. And it's a working designs translation, which working designs translations are always, I would say, the creme de la creme.
They're pretty good.
The measuring stick.
They're really good.
And it was very good. And then I got to the ending and I was like, this is bullshit. And I spiked my controller.
And then you were sad.
Threw a temper tantrum, and then I was like, okay, I have to come back to it. But the reason why, because if you remember, if our longtime viewers remember, I got Lunar for my anniversary back in October. It didn't take me this long of constantly playing it. The clock is only at, I want to say, 35 hours.
Yeah.
But how I play RPGs is I'll get it. I'll play through what I would consider the first part of the main story, to where you start getting that kind of grindy stuff.
Yeah.
If there's a spot where they're like, okay, here's a map and you need to find 8 of these things on this map, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'll take.
It's the fetch quest basically.
Yeah, I'll take my leave because you have to beat the 4 fiends. Cool, I will take my leave. I'll be back. You guys will see me in a few weeks.
Yeah. If you're lucky.
I will go to the first dungeon and save it right outside the dungeon, so I know that is the dungeon I need to go into.
This is where you need to go
when I pick it back up. And then I'll go away from it, come back from a few weeks later.
Yeah.
We play a lot of games, so action games come up. Action games that you can get done in
a day or two.
Yeah. So I'll do that. Cleanse your palate, and you come back to it. You go back, you come back to it. Eventually, there's something inside of me will just. A switch will flip.
It's like Andy needs to JRPG out.
Yeah,
you need to get your fix.
There's a clock in my mind that when it hits 0, I just immediately go, I need to finish this game. Mm-hmm. And that is what Lunar 2 Eternal Blue did this to me this weekend. Is I just went, I've been playing this I just need to sit down and play.
You need to finish this out. And
so I sat down and played in my office, and it was, like I said, really good. The story beats is really good. Everyone's character story I really like.
Yep.
The thing I don't like about the epilogue was, okay, so I told you everyone had a happy ending.
Except for the main character.
Except for the main character. So in the epilogue, I thought you only played as the main character, so I kept dying a lot. So then I go online, I'm like, this is frustrating me. And they're like, oh, you have to go recruit everyone again.
Oh.
And it gives you, the really sick thing that Game Arts did is they give you a choice between interrupting this person's happy ending and letting them just live out their happy ending.
Oh, That's kind of mean.
It's very mean.
Like, does it give you a menu that says, "Do you really want to do this to this person?" Or no, like,
yes, it literally gives you a suggestion. Like he's like, you know,
Duder's really happy. Do you really want to disrupt
a lot of the characters, your main character is named Hiro, Hiro, and they'll be like, you know, Hiro, do you really need me? And they'll be like, him saying, yeah, I really like, I feel like this is something I have to do. I need your help on it, or you're really happy and you should stay here and just, you know, light a candle for me. And I'm like,
that's kind of not cool.
Those characters are like, you're so invested in them, and that's always the thing that the Lunar series has been great about. And it was just, there's a lot of times, there's one character in particular, that if you've played Lunar 2, you probably have an idea of the character I'm talking about. This character, he's with you for most of the game, and he has, I felt, the most satisfying sub-story. Yeah. Like, his gets wrapped up in a nice little bow, and then in the closing movie, there's a really sweet moment that it has to do with his story. And I was like, when he was like, do you really want me to come with you? I was like, if you weren't the healer, I'd say no.
But I need you to make sure that I don't die.
Yeah. So, but that's how I play RPGs. So that's how I got through Final Fantasy 13, where everyone hated it. It took me over a year to complete it, but I played it in spurts so it didn't drag on me. Yeah. Because a lot of the things with RPGs, JRPGs in particular, is the mechanics, the mathematics of it, and the grind can wear you down and wear your interest down. And the last one I tried to just power through was Xenosaga 2, and I totally got burnt out on that game.
Yeah, because it's the Xenosaga game, so you have to do a certain amount of grinding and things like that.
And on top of that, there was a thing with Xenosaga 1 and a save file, and my brother deleting it. But
that really chapped your ass.
Yeah, so it started on the wrong foot. But so I was like, I'm just going to power through this one. And that's just not how me and JRPGs don't mix well that way.
Gotcha.
But
so you've enjoyed the majority of Eternal Blue at this point?
Yes, the vast majority. And so I'm also playing Ni no Kuni at this moment.
Oh, so you've picked that back up now?
Well, kind of.
Kind of, sort of.
Ish. Yeah. I'm also playing through, what else? I'm also playing through Deus Ex. So I'm kind of juggling all these things, not mentioning the fact that I'm also playing Mega Man 4 on my Nintendo and all these other things. Because sometimes you need a palate cleanse.
You just need to step away from the games you're playing and play something else to kind of...
Especially with JRPGs, because if you just... they are so large, and it's such a buffet, that if you just gorge yourself, you're going to be sick.
If all you do is play nothing but JRPGs...
Well, if all you do is play nothing but that particular JRPG, you're going to get sick of it, and you're going to want to leave it.
Yeah. And you know
which is kind of what we want to talk about this week, is games that you left and came back to, you hated the first time.
I played. You played for a little while, and you were
like it.
"This is not what I want" for whatever reason.
Did not light your pants on fire.
No, and then you come back to it later, and you're like, "Huh, okay, so maybe I was wrong about this."
Yes.
And
actually, just noticed something. We're both wearing black, so we're both actually the evil twins of the normal hosts.
Yes. All we need now is mustaches,
goatees,
little goatees. And
anyway,
so last weekend after the show, I went to GameStop, dropped a whole bunch of.
Yeah. What's that place?
I had a whole bunch of games that I'm never going to play again. My wife's never going to play again. They were like the dance games, a bunch of Guitar Heroes, things like that. By the way, they give you like 7 cents.
I'm just going to say this. Dave trades his stuff in.
Andy does not.
I am still sitting on top of, I think, 2 guitars, a drum kit.
Oh, I still have the guitars and the drum kit because I have one Guitar Hero game and one Rock Band game. So
okay.
I have the good Rock Band, which is the Beatles Rock Band, and forget which Guitar Hero we have.
I have the Beatles Rock Band and I have Rock Band 2. Normally, if I've bought something, it normally stays in my collection just because I'm paranoid that Andy in 10, 15, 20,
he's going to want to play something that he doesn't have anymore.
Play that copy.
So I did that, and they gave me like $50 because I dropped a whole bunch of games, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we can give you an extra 50% if you put it towards a used game. And I'm like, really? Mm-hmm. So I looked around and I was like, there's like this $3 game called Club that I almost bought.
The Club.
The Club.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was like $3. I thought, no.
The Club is $3 at GameStop? I might go get the Club at GameStop because I really like that game.
Whatever, it was like $2.99 or something.
Yeah,
so anyway, it's good. I wandered around for a little while and I'm like, all right.
You would like it.
I'll give Final Fantasy 13 another chance. It was like $12.
Speaking of Final Fantasy 13.
Yes, you already mentioned it. I bought it for the 360 because I know I'm not going to be able to play it on my PS3 because my wife does schoolwork and our kitchen is in the same, like we have one big room for our living room.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be able to play it on the PS3, which is a real bummer because the 360 version is...
But it's the same game.
It's the same game, visually it's not as impressive. Like the cutscenes look super grainy.
As someone who grew up on the Sega Genesis and saw third-party ports on the Super Nintendo that looked amazing compared to what I had on my Sega Genesis, that whole port thing has kind of numbed me a bit, except for Bayonetta, because Bayonetta doesn't play right on the PS3. As long as it functions correctly,
you're good.
The graphics don't matter that much.
Well, it bums me out because the PS3 version is on a Blu-ray, so all that information is on one disc, whereas the 360 version is on 3. So they have to put all that.
God forbid those 2 times you got to swap discs.
Well, yeah, but come on, lower res
You're
textures.
talking to someone who's playing Lunar Eternal Blue,
which
is also on 3 discs.
I understand. The visual thing is kind of not a deal breaker, but it kind of bums me out that I'm not playing it on the PS3. But after spending more than 2 hours playing it, because I bought it brand new the day it came out and took it back.
We had this discussion when he bought it.
And took it back the next day because I did not like the way the story was presented, where it was, here, you play these characters for 10 minutes and then you play this character.
Which I still don't like.
There's
things I don't like about Final Fantasy. I'm not going to say it's
not the perfect Final
Fantasy,
Fantasy, but there are things about it that are very good and things about it that are kind of bothering.
If I were to make a list of all the Final Fantasies and all their pros and cons, there would be Final Fantasy core titles that scored much lower than Final Fantasy 13 in my esteem.
But anyway, so I'm giving it the good old college try or whatever. I'm about 5 hours in. I'm at the point where you're controlling the Shaz and Vanille and the Hope Kid.
Going through the canyon.
Going through the canyon where all the trash is.
Yes.
I'm in like chapter 3.
Yes.
So now I've actually unlocked a lot of the different paradigm shift whatever's.
Yeah, but you're still not all the way through the tutorial.
Yes, I know. The tutorial is like 6 hours long or 8 hours long.
I don't get why it is.
Because there's a lot of systems they need to introduce you to.
And it's totally different than all the other Final Fantasies.
It is. It is a completely different combat system. And
the first time I played it, I was like, this is Call of Final Fantasy. Because the battles happen so quick, they're so Twitch responsive.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like playing a menu-driven fighting game.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah,
because there's that much back and forth and strategy, and you really have to think about.
You have to watch the other guy.
What the bad guys are going to do next. What you guys are going to do next.
Yeah,
I get that.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff to it, and it's a really interesting combat system. I don't understand. Well, I understand why you can't control the other 2 characters because you really can't do it. You have no time to control. There's no way you can control all 3 characters in your party at any one time.
See, what you need to do is stop at Starbucks and get like a triple shot of espresso, and then on your way home, do like 3 lines of Coke, and then when you get home, just down a Jolt Cola.
I was going to say, down a 4-pack of Red Bull.
You can actually control the second character, but the third character is probably still out of your realm of.
It is something else. And the combat doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy combat game, right? Like even though it is still menu driven, for the most part, the other 2 characters they run on their own.
It really feels like once you're out of the tutorials, it really feels like you are switching paradigms.
Every other round.
Yes, but you're switching paradigms. Paradigm is not a menu, but that is the menu you are controlling to fight the bad guys. You kind of realize like okay. I'm low on health, so I need to
switch over. I need
to medics.
I need to find one with a medic, or I need to.
So that way I'm going to. So that way I'm going to. They're going to heal. So then I need to buff, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And you're doing that all the time. But I mean,
there is a groove in that game, and when you hit that groove, it feels really good.
Yes, you have to hit that groove though.
But Final Fantasy 13 does a really good job of putting a tutorial between you and that groove.
Well, yeah, but they have to. They have to explain all these systems, like the Gestalt or whatever it is, where you actually, because I just got through the one where Snow gets the Shiva sisters, right?
Yes.
It took
the lesbian motorcycle.
Yes, that was crazy. Like when I finished that, I was like, oh, that's why they have big wheels on the back of their head.
Yeah.
They're freaking a motorcycle. So I just finished that, and
when you get.
I actually had to look up a game fact to finish that.
When you get Lightning's Gestalt all the way maxed out and she can do everything that she does and the clock timer is long enough that you actually have to think about what you're doing, it looks really cool. In fact, at one point, I was playing it towards the end of the game, and my wife walked through the living room, and she's on this giant horse with a double sword flipping around, and there's roses everywhere.
It's all kinds of crazy stuff.
All this crazy crap is happening, and then the horse turns into a giant transformer, and my wife was like, that looks amazing. I was like,
what the
yes.
hell is that?
Like, I don't know what I
don't know what I'm doing, but
I only barely understand why I'm making all this stuff look awesome.
Yeah.
But that's been a problem with Final Fantasy since the whole summon mechanic.
Yeah, I
showed
mean,
up in 3.
everybody remembers Knights of the Round from Final Fantasy VII. Like, if you
I don't remember it. I remember that thing that I did and then got up and got a cup of coffee.
You get up and then go read a book and come back 10 minutes later and they're halfway through.
Still going. Okay.
All right.
Let's put some marshmallows.
But I mean,
in this.
it is a really interesting game. I kind of like the Crystallarium or whatever it is because Crystarium because there's not actually a leveling mechanic. Like that is the leveling mechanic in this game. That I understand. I haven't got that super far.
Crystarium would be a con in my book because the thing I don't like about
we didn't like if you don't like the what was it the orb grid that they had in 10, you probably won't like this either.
The orb grid, the Majerian, what's the...
Materia?
Materia.
You don't like Materia?
Because basically it creates this level playing field where all your characters
can be the same. But see,
by the end of the game, you need them to all be the same. Because you need to be able to juggle the different paradigms.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, right now I'm still early on, so
and when I say this, when I say the same, I'm not saying identical. I'm just saying
they all can fill the same roles.
Powers.
Yeah, they can kind of fill the same roles.
Like yes, lightning will always be a better. I think it's
Commando.
Called Striker. No, Commando. Than anyone else, but.
Everybody could be a commando, or most of them could be a commando at some point.
Yeah, I remember when I got to the end of the game, and I had my core team at the end of the game was Lightning, and Vanille, and Hope, and the girl you haven't met yet.
No, because she's the one that takes Snow away, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you played?
So
with
I've
her
met
yet?
her, but I have not. She's not joined the party yet.
So those were my 4, and then I would always juggle the 3 out, and then Shaz,
whatever his name is.
Shaz.
The dude with the fro and the chocobo that hides.
Chocobo.
Chocobo.
So he would be my alternate. So I would always I would basically play with those 4, and then but I never touched Snow. Like he was useless to me for pretty much everything I was doing.
Why you hate Snow?
I don't know.
Snow's like the one character I could actually cosplay if my hair got long enough. The one. Shut up.
You think you're a lot
No.
better in shape than you are.
Shut the fuck up. I can suck it in. Suck it in for a couple hours.
So by the end of the game, I was juggling so much. And then, so I got done. I was like, I'm running into these giant behemoths. They're really hard. They're not as hard as they were back in the open area. When we were in the game, they're like, oh, yeah, you need this, that, and the other thing. And Snow has this thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I haven't leveled Snow at all.
But I mean, like, the thing is, I think all the characters get XP even if they're not in the fights. Like,
well, yeah, but
I never used
since
Hope.
I never used Snow, he was very.
You would have to go through the whole Crystallarium to get him up to where he is.
Hope's good. Hope has some really.
He's kind of whiny.
Hope and Vanille tag team really well in fights.
They do. So
I like Hope's story. I don't think he's whiny.
He seems pretty whiny.
Oh, you haven't gotten to the spy. Okay, so
he seems pretty whiny at this point in the game.
Yeah, Hope is kind of the Pinello from Final Fantasy XII that everyone hated. Hope is that character in this one.
Okay, well, whatever.
Yuna, Final Fantasy VII, everyone hates Yuna? Yeah, that's Hope.
No, Yuna was in 10, but yeah.
No, okay, so who's...
Yuna was in 10.
Yeah, Yuna's in 10. Who is the female character that is not Tifa in Final Fantasy? Yuffie, yes, everyone hates Yuffie.
She was an optional character. You didn't have to get her.
You didn't?
No, she was optional. Her and Vincent were optional characters in 7. If you went through that whole quest line and you don't like that character, you wasted your time. So anyway, I'm playing that again. Again, I'm only 5.5 hours in. I am enjoying the combat more than I would enjoy a normal Final Fantasy game just because you do have to wrap your head around it and it's a lot more faster paced. Mm-hmm. But most of the time you can just sit there and spam the button and be like, oh, everybody's about to die. Switch, spam the button while the 2 other characters heal the crap out of everybody.
Well, yeah, but
and then switch it back
that's
over.
the problem. You're still in the tutorial, so a lot of it is locked off to you.
Yeah, I
Once
know.
you get out of that, there's a spot in Final Fantasy 13, and everyone that has beaten it knows where this spot is, where the game opens up.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm not even talking about, I understand. You've told me, hey, this is going to be the Final Fantasy hallway for 10 hours.
Yes.
Or whatever
and when you get out of that hallway and they finally take the reins off and they're not hand-holding you anymore, the game literally and figuratively opens up.
Yeah.
And that's when, okay, you can start messing around with paradigms and working the different ones and figuring out what you need. And I'm doing that Jack Black thing. Frank Black. Anyway, so that was your game that you
that was the game
originally. You came back and you're liking it.
I also didn't like Final Fantasy Tactics when I played it the first time, and then I went back and played it a few months.
For shame!
I know.
I don't even know you.
This was right after I beat Final Fantasy VII. I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be just like that.
This
and
is the PS1 translation.
It was
I could see that.
completely not. It wasn't even the story. It was just the way the game played. I was like, this is crap. I don't like this. And I put it in my put it in my little cabinet for all my games for like a year, and then I brought it back out, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty awesome. After
I'm gonna go put your hand in a garbage disposal.
No, I don't have enough super glue to fix that. Anyway, so have you had any games that you did not like initially and then did?
Yes, when we were originally talking about this topic, I was like, because that's not how I play games.
You
I
play games until you find something you like about it.
Yes, I will usually power through most titles, and then I started thinking about why do I do that? Why do I play games?
Just want to get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, until I enjoy them. Which is, it sounds weird when I put it like that. It's not like I'm forcing myself to enjoy a game. I'm one of those people that I'm an optimist. I can find something interesting and good in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, where did that come from? And then I realized I started doing that in college. Because I had the time to devote to these things. And I was like, okay, so I can do this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, okay. I can start getting my money out of things. Because it was my money at that point.
Well, it still is.
Well, yeah.
It's not like we get free games.
No,
Wish
but...
we did.
So, like I said, I had to go further back into the past. It's gonna take you back to the past.
So we're talking Genesis era?
PS1
Genesis era?
Further than that.
Regular NES or Atari?
Regular NES era.
Okay.
I had to think of a game that the first time I played it, I hated it. I thought it was the worst thing in the world.
Are you talking about the Batman game for the NES?
No,
Okay.
I liked Batman. Because it had the movie and.
Anyway.
8-year-old Andy's head, I was like, oh yeah, I can...
Batman movie.
Batman.
Batman
Even
game.
if I'm only getting through the same 3 levels over and over again.
Anyway.
You never get past that sewer as a kid. So I had to go all the way back, and I was like, racking my brain. It's like, what game? Dragon Warrior. The first time I played Dragon Warrior...
Wasn't it called something else here? Was it Dragon Quest initially here?
It's Dragon Warrior here, Dragon Quest over there.
Gotcha. Anyway. I knew there was a connection.
Over here, over there.
Anyway,
this is a musical
so
episode.
you did not like Dragon Warrior when you first played it.
Yes. So understandably, Dragon Warrior I got as part of the Nintendo Power promotion, which Nintendo of America saw how crazy Dragon Quest did in Japan. Was like, we'll bring it over here. We'll translate it. It wasn't selling. They were like, we'll give it away with Nintendo Power. Cool.
Awesome.
So I had the copy from Nintendo Power. It had been open. I remember when I first played it.
It had a save on it.
It had a save on it, which was probably my brother's, and wasn't very far into the game. And I started playing it, and I hated it.
Yeah. Well,
Could not stand it. Couldn't understand it. Of course, once again, to put you in my mind space, I'm just then learning to read by myself.
7 or 8 year old or 5 or 6 year old Andy here.
Thee and thou and this and that and go here and Erdrick and all that crap. And I just remember hating that game and always wanting. That was one of the first games I made my parents turn in at Funkoland, and they gave my parents nothing for it.
Because everybody had a copy of it.
Everybody had a copy of it, and so I remember making my parents turn it in because. They didn't want to turn it in because I wasn't getting anything from it. They're like, you're only getting like $4 or $5.
If that, maybe.
And you can't get a new one. But I remember vividly hating that game.
I don't like it. Get rid of it. I don't care.
Flash forward.
20 years.
Not even 20 years. Flash forward
15.
I'm trying to remember the first. Oh, Final Fantasy 1 was the first RPG I played and really loved. And I played it when I was 8. So this is now probably 2 years later. If you were to stretch, it's probably 2 years. And I played it with a guy that was in the apartment complex in Chicago that was 11. So he clearly knew how to read.
Yes.
And was
you would hope
proficient at it at that point. And anything that I thought was weird and was sounding out, he would know how to say. He walked me through because I had the strategy guide.
And stuff, yeah.
I had the strategy guide from Nintendo Power. So that's what I brought to the table. So he actually read the strategy guide, figured everything out, and I sat there and watched and figured out how to play RPGs. Went back, found a copy of Dragon Warrior at it was either a thrift shop, but I want to say it was a Tuesday morning, but I'm probably sure it was a thrift shop. For like $1, bought it, played it, and loved it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about Final Fantasy 13. I'm not that far yet. Oddly enough, they're both JRPGs that we hated and came back.
Well, there were other.
I didn't like.
games
To be fair, I didn't like Gears of War when I first played it either, and I'm actually having a lot of fun with it now.
Let's see, the other games I hated when I played it on the NES the first time. I hated Mega Man the first time I played it.
Because Mega Man was freaking hard.
Yeah, because I was also 6. I hated Bucky O'Hare. I remember renting Bucky O'Hare and hating it. And now I continually look for that cartridge because I love that game.
Because you can't find it anywhere.
Well, it's uncommon. Let's see what else. I remember loving Disney's The Little Mermaid, and then I played it just recently.
And it's not very good.
It's very good. I mean, it's an R-Type clone, and it is.
What is Ariel throwing stars?
Bubbles.
Starfish. Oh, okay.
You upgrade. You shoot bubbles. You upgrade them, and it's not forced scrolling R-Type.
Yeah.
I mean, like the kiddie version of R-Type clone.
That's kind of awesome, actually.
And I figured it out. I figured out why, as a kid, I liked games and I hated others, and it's strictly because of the difficulty curve.
If it has a high difficulty curve, you're kind of meh.
Because I was a kid, I didn't understand things like that. I mean, like I remember loving Legend of the Mystical Ninja and Tecmo Bowl.
Because they're really easy.
Yeah, because I could understand them.
Yeah, you get it. Tecmo Bowl is freaking football. So
yeah. Whereas like now, as an adult, if I don't understand a game, I try to figure it out.
You sit there and look up stuff online and things like that. Yeah. And that was part of the reason why I did not like Final Fantasy 13 at first, because I'm like I understood that it was a game and there was all this stuff, but it wasn't like I had it in my head that this is not a Final Fantasy game. And
well, you didn't like the Gambit system in 12.
I never played 12.
Oh.
I may have like watched you play it or played your save for like 20 minutes, and I was kind of like.
I remember us talking about it, and you were like, I don't like this Gambit system because you don't do anything. It just does itself. And I'm like, yeah, that's the best thing about it. Like, I don't have to worry about those two efforts.
That's true. You don't have to pay. I mean, you don't have to pay as close attention. Like, and in Final Fantasy 13, the screen flashes bright red no matter what character is getting below whatever.
And it heals you at the end of the fight. I mean, so it takes out a lot of the JRPG mainstays.
The upkeep between different fights.
Because a lot of the JRPG mainstay, especially looking at Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, is item management.
Yes.
Like you need to have, when you go into that boss fight, you need to have X amount of things that restore.
You have to have potions that do life and mana.
Yeah, mana. You have to do this. You have to have a couple resurrection things.
Yep.
You need to and you need to not use those until your healing character is dead or out of spell points. So and Final Fantasy 13.
The only thing you have to worry about.
That stuff is in there, but you totally don't need to use it.
Yeah, you could use potions. Potions are for like when your healer's dead or whatever.
Once you're out of that tutorial area, you don't really need to use potions anymore. I remember at the end of that game having a lot of gil.
Yeah, well, and I'm kind of disappointed so far with the lack of like shopping options. Like, because I have the first Unicorn shop, and then there's like another one's like B&W Outfitters or something.
Yeah.
And it's whatever.
That comes into play later on. Like, I didn't use the shops at all until much later in the game.
Once you
where you have to buy the crafting items.
Yeah, see, I've got a ton of crafting.
Did you get the guidebook?
No, I didn't. I'm not going to buy a guidebook.
I have a copy of it. You need it.
I can
when you get to the end game.
Go to GameFAQs. Call it a day. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could sit there with GameFAQs on one monitor, this on the other monitor. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I have TV here, computer monitors here.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm set. That's what I mean. Like I said, that's what
it's a really well done strategy guide. Looks good.
Oh yeah, the strategy guides always look good, but the problem, especially now with games, is they get outdated real quick.
Well, this one's not going to get. This isn't outdated.
Well, no, but I mean, it's like the core mechanics are probably going to be the same, but like the WoW ones get outdated so fast because they're MMOs. I think that's the nature of it.
I think MMO strategy guides have given a bad rep to the rest of the strategy guide community.
I think some strategy guides are just anyway, but
yeah, some strategy guides are just literally stupid. But
yeah, so yeah. There are games that we have played, hated, came back to, and Final Fantasy 13, because I've made a big deal about it over the past few years.
Yeah, I think if you take anything away from this podcast, it's if you hate it now,
try it again in a few years and see what you think.
Take a break and try it again.
Yeah.
Whether it's a break of days, months, or years, there's something there that's going to click. However, some games are just bad.
Looking at you, E.T.
Elliot. Golgo 13. Anyway, don't forget to spay and neuter your Pokemons. We'll be back next week. Hopefully there'll be something newsworthy to talk about. Who knows? Enjoy the spring.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's spring everywhere.
It's going to be 35 degrees here tomorrow.
Whatever. Bye.